G'day guys, Socket here. Today's viewer's question comes from Tahisi Shan 500, who I think is struggling a little bit with the auto-tune features in Audio-Tech Fisher version 4. So he says, the V4 program doesn't have a channel filter setting nor the tune EQ. How am I supposed to properly tune my system on the version 4 program for my 7 BMW Up 7 DSP, which I think is a Match DSP from Audio-Tech Fisher. He then is asking about the version 6 version of the Audio-Tech Fisher PC tool. Will that work with his Match 7 BMW DSP? So I'll do my best to answer these two questions for you, mate. So look, there are a lot of people that are still using version 4. It still has 90% of the features that are available in version 5 and version 6. So the Audio-Tech Fisher PC tool software is a little bit like an Apple product. They make small incremental changes with each new version that they release. And so if you're still using version 4, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But for some people, their DSPs are only compatible with version 4. I'll put a list of that up on the screen. You can see the models that are compatible with version 5 and version 4. And at the moment, the version 6 model only has half a dozen DSPs that it's compatible with. They're looking to expand that to all DSPs over the coming months. But right now, I guess to answer one of your questions, no, your Match 7 BMW DSP will not work with version 6 at this at the time of recording, which is in early July of 2025. So let's move on to the second question that Tai has, and that's all around how does he use the auto-tune features in version 4, which are slightly different to the auto-tune features in version 5. So I have an extensive tutorial playlist on the version 5 of the Audio-Tech Fisher PC tool software, which covers everything from virtual channels, the device configuration menus, and of course the auto time alignment and auto EQ and tuning features. And as I said before, the Audio-Tech Fisher PC tool software versions are not that dissimilar. They have a few extra features in version 5 that they don't have in version 4, but you can still do a tune in version 4. Now unfortunately, being able to do a demonstration of that means I would have to wipe out my DSP, load up version 4, do the demonstration, then load version 5 back up, and it will cause me a lot of grief because it's just a massive headache to do. So what I'm going to do instead is just explain the difference in the features between version 4 and version 5 and point you towards the sections of the version 5 tutorial that will kind of help you out, and hopefully you'll be able to piece that all together. Alright, well, enough of an intro. Let's get into looking at the auto-tune features in version 4. Okay, so we're going to get started by selecting or opening up a demo version of Tahi's Match 7 BMW DSP. So we'll just click here on the version 4 of the software and then find, here it is, the Match Up 7 BMW DSP. So we can start demo and just load that up. And here we go. So we've got into the opening screen, which is our usual, main screen. We have all the speakers and the EQ and and all that stuff. So Tahi's DSP has got 2 front channels, 2 rear channels, a front center, and a couple of subwoofer channels, and a line out, and that's fine, perfectly fine. So the tool we want to use here is in the RTA tab, so we'll just click on that and we will open that up. And let's have a quick look at all the features, and then I will quickly go to version 5 and show you the differences. So essentially here is the main screen, and we've got the target curve for the tune. Now we also down here at the bottom have a button to start the analyzer, start the measurement, a counter which times down, the ability to switch between set EQ and auto set. Okay, so these are two different tuning modes that we can use. Down here it tells us the speaker or the groups of speakers that we are selecting to tune. So if we sort of go back here and I change that from front left to front center fill, and we go back into the RTA, you will see that that's now changed to front center fill. So just bear in mind that if you're EQing against this target curve, you want to select all the speakers that you want to tune, and we'll do that in a little moment. Over here there is a thing called iterations, which tells you, I'll explain a little bit more in a minute. This is the EQ range that you're going to EQ to. So at the moment it's set from 160 through to 8000. Okay, so it will only EQ between those 2 points. All right, 8000 and 160. It will not EQ this bit and it will not EQ that bit. So this is a common mistake with people using this tool, is they don't put in the right EQ range, and they don't tell the tool, how far they want the tool to act on their EQ bands, right? So make sure that you always manually set this. Then we have this button called Auto Set. I'll talk about that a little bit later too, but basically, it's just the automatic settings. Here we have some sliders which allow us to match the, move the reference curve up and down, or when you're taking a measurement, to be able to move the measurement curve up and down. Once again, I'll talk about that as well. And then you have a button here which takes you into a second menu, which allows you to select your microphone device. If you're using different microphones, load a calibration file for that microphone. So if you're using a U mic or something, or you have a calibration file, you can load that up. Then you have what they call the RTA graph settings. So, smoothing. I think you know what smoothing is from other tutorials. So, whether you want fast or slow, the default is normal, and that's pretty fine. The measurement time for when you're doing a measure. This is how long the counter or the countdown will time down to. I think 20 seconds is fine. The smoothing resolution. So, it's crazy to do it in 1/24th. I always use 1/6, and then you can use either lines or bars, or this changes the look and the color scheme of the charts. So this is all to do with, if I just go back by clicking this button, this is all to do with changing the look of of this and the resolution and things that you're using in your RTA window, right? Then you have over here the different reference curves that you can set up. So Audio Tech Fisher have a basic reference curve, or house curve that we call it. You can save and load curves if you want to. You can tune to flat, although I wouldn't recommend it because your tune will not have enough bass. And then of course you can just click custom, and you can set your own tune by doing this kind of manually, and save it if you want to. And so one of the things that is different between version 5 and version 4 is that version 4 does not have a kind of an automatic setting for individual house curves for speakers. For individual speakers. Version 5 has speakers. Version 4 just has a house curve for an entire tune, right? But if you really do want to tune a single speaker, I guess you could, if you're doing a tweeter or something like that, you could literally, roll all these down like this, to represent a tweeter curve, and and bring all these others down to 0, right? Something, if you get the general idea, you can create your own speaker house curve, kind of a little bit like this. Blah 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 blah, and then save that curve as a tweeter, and maybe do that for your mids and your your mid basses and other things. A bit of a clunky way of doing it. That's probably one of the main disadvantages of using this tool in version 4. So this last setting over here is about when you are doing the auto EQ, how accurate do you want it to be. So at the moment it's set to 0.5 of a decibel. I think that maybe even 1.5 is perfectly fine. Now if you're having trouble with your auto EQ locking onto the target line, just come in here and reduce the how tight you're trying to get this thing to match. As I said, 1 decibel, normally in REW, 1 or 2 dB around the target line is perfectly fine. So half a dB is extremely accurate. So, and is usually the reason why, if you're having trouble with your auto EQ locking, it's because you're asking a little bit too much of it, to try to get it within plus or minus half a dB of this. So relax this tolerance a little bit. The next thing here is iteration, so how many times the system will go through trying to EQ before it gives up, and the number of seconds that it takes for each round of auto EQ work to happen. So for example, if I set this to 20 seconds, okay, what the system will do will go through 5 rounds of 20 seconds trying to EQ to an accuracy of 0.5 decibels plus or minus around the target curve. And if it gets to the end of the 5 by 20 seconds and it still can't sort of complete the auto EQ, it will kind of give up and give you an error. So as I said, if you're having trouble locking on like some people do, just relax this maximum deviation, maybe to 1.5 or 2 dB. Maybe try to increase this time a little bit, or increase the maximum number of iterations and see how you go. So these are all the settings related to your RTA graph. All right, so one of the main differences between version 4 and version 5 is the number of tuning modes that you have. We have what we call set EQ and auto EQ. So when you go and take a measurement, you'll see your measurement line bouncing around up here. Set EQ simply allows you to, take a measurement and then set the equalizing. Auto EQ basically EQs as it's doing the measurements. Now I don't really see a point of using set EQ with this version 4 of the tool. The easiest way to use it is to basically click on auto set, go and then select the speakers that you want to use. So let's say we're doing the left hand side, so we'll do left, probably not the center, so I'm going to have, turn that off. I'm going to have my left full and my rear and my front left, and probably my subwoofer, right? If I have a rear sub, for example, I'm not sure what Tahi's system is set up like, right? But let's say we're doing the left hand side. I would then go into the RTA, then play my pink noise, start the analyzer, see that the pink noise signal is turning green up here, and then once you've got the volumes right, you will see that there's the white line is bouncing around up here. Then you use these two sliders to what you want is the measurement line and the target line, which this is this grey one, to kind of be on top of each other before you start taking your measurements, right? So this just allows you to help you adjust your the measurement up and down, or the target line up and down. And when you've got them, this is green because you've got the volume loud enough, and you can adjust these up and down, so you've got your measurement line sort of bouncing around here, a bit like in the example I'm showing up in the top corner. Then you're able to they're in the ballpark, and then you can click start measurement. This timer will start to click down, and when it gets to 0, it will start the next. You'll see you'll have iteration 1 click over, and it'll tell you sort of how close you are away from, how many deviations you're away from the target line. And when you get to the end of your 5 or however iterations that you set before, in the RTA settings, you know, like over here, you might have made that 10 or whatever. When it gets to the end of the number of iterations, then you'll either pop up with an error, or it'll pop up and saying that your deviations have been reached. In other words, the tune is fine. And with auto set on, it will automatically drop the EQ measurements into your speakers, a bit like as I'm showing up in the example up the top there. And so that is the way to do your tune. Basically with version 4 you're only able to do sort of like a left-hand side, like a full range tune, not really able to do your individual speakers. And then, you know, if you want to do the other side, then, you know, you'd turn off your left and turn on your right hand sides by making sure these little orange buttons are all lit up. And then, you know, there's other subwoofer if you just happen to have one. And you may or may not have a center channel. If you do, you probably would turn it on with either your left or your right. So let's pretend we would do that now. And you go back into the RTA and you repeat the process. And as I said, with the auto set, with this auto set on, the system is automatic. It will automatically match the target line. It will automatically work out the EQs, and it will automatically dump them into your RTA window here. And that's basically how you use version 4 to do your auto tuning. Now, as I said, it does not have the same features as in version 5. If we quickly pop over there to take a look at those, I'll show you the major differences very quickly. So let's load up version 5. As I said, Tahi's DSP is not listed here, so we're going to have to do the demo using, and I'll just use my DSP, Bluetooth card, and we will start with all of that and go straight into the RTA. So the main differences between version 4 and version 5 is you have these extra menus up the top here, which allow you to you know, play around with channel gains, and I think there's a couple of extra reference curves. There's an ATF SQ curve and, you know, whatever. You also have this thing called channel filter target mode, which allows you to switch between individual house curves for individual speakers. So if this, you know, if we'd have a mid selected, this would show a mid, or the overall house curve. Now version 4 does not have that ability, right? It just has the ability to match a house curve. The other major difference is this thing called, if we go into the settings here, tuning mode. They have both set EQ and auto set, which we find in version 4, but in version 5 they have this thing called tune EQ, which once again is to do with being able to tune single channels. But other than that, most of the features that you find in version 4, like the reference and the volume offset curves, you know, and the reference curves, I think there's the Audio Tech Fisher reference curve, that house curve that we saw before. They've got an extra house curve in here. They've got the flat curve that we saw before. And if we go into, I think it's this one, no, down here, extended settings, you know, we get into this area where we can choose our microphone and the RTA graph settings and the, you know, auto configuration stuff, right? So yeah, there's a few differences between 4 and 5. Probably the big difference is that tune EQ, the ability to do individual channels, which you don't find in version 4. But you know, as I said much earlier, that the Audio Tech Fisher PC tool software updates are kind of incremental. Yeah, so that is the major differences between version 4 and version 5. So Tahi, I hope that helped you in terms of understanding the differences between version 4 and version 5 and how you might be able to measure your left and right sides using the auto EQ feature in version 4. Yeah, it doesn't have the ability to do individual speakers and, you know, and all that type of stuff. But to be totally honest, you know, the Audio Tech Fisher tuning tool, while it is quick and easy to do a tune, you will certainly get much better results using your microphone, your pink noise, and your laptop. and doing the moving mic measurement method in REW and all your time alignment and stuff using the manual method that we've been covering in the Room EQ Wizard tutorial series. But anyway, I hope that gives you enough information to at least get a basic tune out of your version 4 auto tuning features. So guys, that brings us to the end of today's viewer's question. I hope you found something interesting in there. Once again, I'd like to thank everyone for watching, and I will catch you in the next episode.